Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and thank you for making it Maths is for you. Today we'll be looking at the topic of operations on integers. So if you know what are integers, please let me know in the comments below. And do remember to like, share, and subscribe for more content. So in anything, it's important to know what the terms mean before we go ahead and solve questions that are given to us. So integers are really counting numbers that have a sign attached to them. When I say sign, I mean these can either be positive or negative. So let's say our counting numbers 1, 2, 3, they are positive integers, and you also have the numbers -1, -2, and -3. Those are also integers. So it's the sign that really distinguish an integer. So we have an example here, -4 and +4. So ultimately when we add these two, we will get 0 as our sum. So in other words, when it comes to integers, we can add them, subtract them, multiply them in order to get a value in the end. But this example is just showing that when a positive number is added to its negative version, the result will be 0 in any case. The first set of rules that we'll be looking at today are that of addition. So there are four main things you need to remember when dealing with addition of integers. So whenever you are adding two positive integers, your result should and will be positive. If you are adding two negative numbers, however, your result should be negative. So two positives, positive sum. Two negatives, negative sum. However, when you're working with the two signs at the same time, that is when the value of the number comes into play. So if you have a larger number being positive, that influences your answer to being positive. But if the larger number is negative, then in turn your result will be negative. Alright, so we'll look at a few examples on our next slide. So we have three examples being looked at in this section. So our first example, -2 plus -2. So if you recall the rule, when you add two negative numbers, your result should be negative. So in other words, the same signs are present, add. So -2 plus -2, 2 plus 2 is 4, and you keep the sign. So the answer is -4. In our next situation, -6 plus 2, this now means that we are dealing with two different signs at the same time. So you have to identify which number is larger, as this will influence the sign of your final answer. So if the signs are different, you're really subtracting and then keeping the sign of the larger number. So -6 plus 2 is -4. So our answer should be negative, and we're really subtracting the values present. So 2 from 6, that's 4. And because the larger number is negative, our result will be negative. In comparison to our final example here, the 6 is positive and the 2 is negative. So it's like saying 6 minus 2 just the same. And because the 6 is positive, this influenced our answer in being positive also. Please let me know if these examples help in the comments below. And now we'll be taking a look at multiplication. So I know you're saying, we looked at addition. What about subtraction? We're getting there. Sometimes when you are given subtraction questions, it requires you to know the rules of the multiplication aspect of the topic. So let's get into it. So whenever you multiply two positive integers, your value will be positive in the end, or your product will be positive. The same thing for negatives. So unlike when you were adding them, if the signs are the same, you get the same thing in the end. Not in this case. So whenever you are multiplying really facilitates togetherness, or it brings about something being dominant. So whenever you are multiplying two positives, or whether you are multiplying two negatives, the result will always be positive. So I'll repeat. So even if both integers are negative, your result will be positive as long as multiplication is the operation being used. Similarly, now when you're working with two signs, this is where the negative shines. So irrespective of how large the number is, so even if the positive integer is larger and the negative integer is smaller, because it's multiplication, the negative will supersede the sign of the positive. So irrespective of what the numbers are, how large they are, as long as it's a negative and positive being multiplied together, your result is negative. So positive times positive, negative times negative, positive result. But when you're working with the two signs and you're multiplying them, your result will automatically be negative, irrespective of the size or the value or the strength of the numbers you're working. So we have four examples here that we're going to look at real quick, and they're just in regards to the rules before. So just remember, if you are multiplying two positive numbers, the result is positive. If you're multiplying two negatives, the result is positive just the same. So our first example, 3 multiplied by 2. So I never had to necessarily insert the plus sign in front of the numbers, because anytime a number standing by itself like that, it's automatically positive. So positive times positive, positive 6. Alright, next example, negative 3 times 2. So remember I told you, as long as two signs are involved, the negative will dominate. So the answer is negative 6. Same thing with the next situation, 3 multiplied by negative 2. The result is negative 6 just the same. And then our last example, negative 3 times negative 2, our result will be positive based on the rules that we looked at before. If you were able to get all four correctly, please let me know down in the comments. We are now finally taking a look at the subtraction aspect of the topic. So we have our little example here, 6 minus negative 2. So I know you're looking at it and you're like, whoa, this is really complex. But just take a breath, just take a deep breath, it's fine. So when you are given these questions, try to zoom in on the most complicated part of the expression. So the most complicated part here is the minus negative 2. So the thing is, remember we have looked at rules before, including addition and multiplication. So it's the rule of multiplication that we're going to use now. Now, anytime you see two signs directly beside each other and they are separated by a multiplication sign, they're separated by a bracket, sorry, it automatically indicates that you should multiply. So negative bracket, negative again, you're being asked to multiply there. It's just a secret clue that you can remember. So negative there standing by itself automatically has a coefficient of 1. So the negative attached, it's now negative 1. So you get negative 1 multiplied by negative 2. In turn, your result should be positive, so you get plus 2. So as soon as you work out that most complicated part, you just insert your product or your answer back into your original expression and get the final answer. So really it's 6 plus 2. So I'll repeat, just zoom in on the most complicated part and try to simplify it first. Whatever you get, introduce it or reintroduce it back into your original expression given, and you solve. And we have our second example here, which is similar to one we looked at before. So it's negative 6 minus 2. So whenever you see two integers right beside each other like that, they're not separated by a bracket, so there is no need to multiply. However, they are just right there beside each other. This means that we're really trying to find the sum of these integers together. So whenever you see the signs, same signs like that, they're both negative and you have numbers beside them, all you're being asked to do is add them. So negative 6 plus negative 2. So anytime the signs are close to each other like that, separated by, or whether you have values separated by negative signs, just add them together and write down your final value. So this question, its solution would be negative 8. Please let me know if any of these examples were clear to you or if you require an additional video.